it's time to start thinking about next spring already, even though it's June. June. So what we're doing now is we're going into colonies that are unproductive. They weren't putting up any honey, and they weren't going to do anything for us this year beyond going to winter. And we're going to be going into them and stripping them down to next to nothing and making a whole bunch of nukes to take into winter. It's pretty simple. If they have any drawn comb on top of them, we take that off and set them in another colony. And then we take the 2 brood boxes and take them away from where the hive is, and then we'll then set up a catch box where the hive was. That lets the older foragers leave the splitting area and come back to where home is. It makes it a little less stressful to be working them, and it's been working out pretty well for us so far. So I'm just going to go right in.
We've already taken the top box and set it on our workbench. Now we'll be dealing with the bottom box here.
Sparkler went out again. Wonderful. Some days you just can't keep them lit.
Crack this box. Move it away. Now if I wasn't filming, I would be ready with another empty deep to put there right away. But I am filming, so Sean will have to do it. Take that box, move it away. Like Sean said, that helps to get the foragers back to this spot instead of buzzing around our faces. Carry that over.
The ones who sting you.
Alright, so that's a bunch of empty nukes next to the 2 hive bodies. We'll come back to that in a second. Come back to this base. Throw an empty depot in just so there's something for them to cluster in while we work. We'll throw an inner cover on top. Or whatever, a cover. Make it dark in there. Now that's good to sit for a while, and we'll start our split.
Okay. We just have some 2x4s sit on top of sawhorses here. It's very, very simple, but it seems to work great. The 2 deeps that we're going to be splitting, and as we go look through the hives looking for the queen, we split off the frames. We'll check every frame twice for the queen before we shift her over, and hopefully we find her soon. And we've been averaging 5 nukes out of every big colony, leaving some brood and food for the queen, for the parent queen in the existing colony. And yeah, it's been working great so far. We'll hopefully it goes well today.
Splits we've been making, we put a frame of food on the edge. That's one that's mostly honey or all honey. These are left over from another colony. And then we'll put 2 frames of brood in. If there's a really strong frame of brood, we might make a split with only 1 frame. We're trying to get about a frame and a half total of brood in these nukes. And we'll drop our queens into them, and away they'll go. So, next step is to go through this colony and find the queen while making splits. Make note of another thing that we did on the split setup here. We lined the ground underneath the colonies with inner covers. That serves 2 purposes. First is if we knock any honey cells open, the honey drips down on those inner covers, and we can recover it and put it back into a colony. Just turn it over on one of the nukes and away they'll go. The second is, if we were to accidentally drop the queen out of a box, if she were to jump ship, it gives us something better than just grass to look at to try to find her.
Alright, so we'll show you this. I'm going to time-lapse most of it, but we do have just a few comments to make while we do this. First is, last year when we did this, we did not spend a lot of time looking for the queens. Checked them, put them in the nukes. We only did 1 look over for them and weren't concerned if we didn't find them. What we found is with our double nuke setups, with one right next to the other, if you had a mated queen in one side and an empty or queenless hive in the other,
A queen cell in the
other one, all the bees from the next door hive drained over into the hive that had a queen, and it died out every time. So we're being much more particular about it this year, about finding every queen. We're finding that it's best, he's going to look through both sides of the frame first, hand it to me, I'll look both sides for the queen, then we'll put it into the nuke box. So far we've only missed 1 queen doing that, and we found her on the second pass through the nukes.
In the first nuke we looked at.
In the first nuke we looked at. So it worked out alright. It is slow, but it's giving us a much higher chance of success when the nuke is made up, so it's worth the time investment right now. If we find a frame that's mostly drone brood, or for some other reason wouldn't be much help to a nuke, such as
it's completely empty, there's nothing in it, or it's just a solid sheet of pollen, which pollen is alright, but they really need the sugar more than the pollen in the nuke.
Honey.
Yeah, honey, sugar, whatever. They need the sucrose more than the pollen, we find. So if we find a frame like that, that's just getting set back into the box that we're pulling frames out of to be left for the queen. She's going to have all the field bees, all the workforce, so she has plenty of bees to get that colony turned over, pretty much regardless of what we give her. So she ends up with the dregs, the things nobody else wants, and they turn over pretty quick. We found last year that they draw comb out very, very quickly. The parent colony does, that is. And they're not really to be concerned about. This is the last thing that those parent colonies will give us for this year. So as long as they build up in time for winter, we're happy.
And they will.
And they will.
We're by shooting for putting a solid frame of honey or nectar into these nucs, you're basically giving them enough food to make it through winter. Like that's probably more than enough that they need. More than what they need.
More than enough what they need.
Yeah, more than enough what they need. If I'm good at English.
It's been a long day, apparently.
It has been.
Show you what we got going on here. So in the splits, what we're doing is the honey frame always goes on an edge. So anytime you see an edge frame, that's a honey frame, a feed frame. Then the middle two, we're putting the brood in, and the side frame is going to be a completely empty, blank, foundationless frame like this. And that gives them a little space to grow and all the space they need right now. As we're going through looking for the queens, we're paying special attention to any frames that have emerging brood. The queen's much more likely to be on there. But then as we go, this nuke is finished, so I'll grab an inner cover and set that on. So that one's finished, and we'll get run down to the nuke yard in just a second. As I'm looking at these frames, I'm doing my best to look at them well enough that if we don't find the queen, I would tell myself I don't need to check this frame again because I looked at it well enough the first time. It's slow to find them on the first pass, but it's really slow to find them on the second and third pass. So take your time, do it right the first time. You'll probably save yourself time in the long run. Another thing that might be interesting to note here is this colony that we're in the process of splitting is one that, it was a nuke that we made up last year that overwintered in a 4-frame box on top of a 4-frame box. And it had a mouse nest living in the bottom box. And here we are a couple months later and it's in 20 frames and is going to give us 5 or 6 splits the way it looks. Your bees will surprise you if you let them.
Yeah, this would be a split that we made at this time last year. And we're splitting it now. It's kind of like a rolling ball of splits. Smoke makes them run, but it also makes them more docile, so. But at the same time, this setup of moving the colony away from where home is to do the splits really keeps them docile.
We'll show you what the parent colony looks like when we go back to reset the box. There'll be just swarms of foragers at it.
Yeah, like the nurse bees have never been outside the colony. They're going to stay on the frames. They're nice and gentle. They're the ones you want to be working with. Whereas the foragers are going to pop up out of here, turn around, and go home. And they're the ones you do not want to be working in the middle of.
Okay, so what we'll do with this frame, we don't really need it. We're just going to set it aside in a nuke box for now and come back to it. So now that we've found the queen, we can move very quickly through this hive. All we need to know is pull out a frame, decide what it is, and use it. There's no looking for the queen anymore. It's very fast from this point forward. We understand that it is slow up till this point, but haven't come up with a good scalable way of continuing to do splits like we do that's any faster than this. You gotta find the queen. We have to split. We're gonna split out of both boxes anyway, so you're kind of stuck with, you gotta check every frame. So that's that. This colony gave us 5 splits, give or take, minus a feed frame or 2. So we'll just rinse and repeat that for all the colonies. The next step that we'll do here is we'll clean our workbench off, take the nukes down, and we'll move the parent colony back. So we'll move the parent colony first and show you that. So we have this box set up the way we want now. All the leftover frames are in it. We've made sure the queen is in that box. We saw her right before and put her in. Now this box is ready to go back onto the base to collect the rest of the foragers and be that queen's home from here on out. So we'll do that now. So if we look back here at this colony, this is where we pulled it from. You can see the havoc that's being caused in front of it. It's just a lot of foragers that we don't have to deal with. Makes it nice. So we'll smoke them because there's a lot of confused and likely angry bees in there. We will then move the box off to get it ready for the old hive to come back, like so. And now we fetch the box and we set the hive back where it was. Put the inner cover, outer cover back on. This hive will keep going. We've pulled it back a long ways, but we've made 5 new colonies out of it in this case. So it's a win-win from a colony that's going to make us $0 this year to a colony that's made us 5 more colonies for next year. So it's kind of a win-win for us. As the next step for now, we carry the nukes down and put them where they're going to be. We're splitting just up the hill there, so it's just a short walk. Set them up down here, cover them up, and we'll leave them queenless for an hour or so, and then we'll come back and put queen cells in. Here we have a frame of grafted queens.
Our own grafted queens.
Our own. They look really nice. I've seen bigger ones, but these are certainly functional. The ones last year that were this size are doing excellent now, so I don't think it's anything to worry about. Next step is we're going to pull a cell off of this bar. And then we take that and we gently put it into a cell protector. That just keeps the bees, if they were for some reason to want to tear the cell down, they cannot tear that down. That queen will emerge if she's healthy.
And the bottom is open so the queen can emerge quite easily.
Right. Oh, and that'll get dropped in the colony. Take that cell in the cell protector, wedge the frames and the nukes apart that we just made. Gently place this down. You gotta handle these things as gently as possible. Set that in on the top bars of the frames. Close the frames gently. Close the nuke up and come back in 3 weeks.